My name is Catherine Theisen. Catherine is spelled with a C, and Theisen is spelled Theisen.
You may proceed, Mr. Ashton.
Thank you. How are you currently employed?
I'm employed as the Chief of the Quality Assurance and Training Unit at the FBI Laboratory in Quantico, Virginia.
And how long have you been employed by the FBI?
For 23 years.
What work did you do while with the FBI Laboratory before your current position?
For 6.5 years, I was a research scientist, and in that position, I researched and developed new forensic DNA typing techniques for the FBI laboratory and for other laboratories. Then for 5 years, I was a quality assurance specialist in the FBI laboratory, and I developed quality assurance procedures and practices for use by our laboratory. And then following that, for 9 years, I was a forensic mitochondrial DNA examiner.
What is your educational background that led you to your positions with the FBI?
I have a bachelor's degree in biology from the University of Virginia and a PhD in human molecular genetics from Johns Hopkins University.
Have you taught any classes in forensic DNA analysis?
Yes, I have. Over my career with the FBI, I've taught numerous classes, mostly at the graduate school level, to personnel from crime labs from around the country, as well as other labs in the world.
And what specialized training, or have you received any additional training with the FBI laboratory since the PhD and the master's you told us about?
Yes, specifically for my position as a forensic mitochondrial DNA examiner, I was in our training program for over a year, and that training program consisted of formalized lectures and independent study, as well as lab work, and at the culmination of that was being subjected to numerous examinations, which qualified me to be a forensic mitochondrial DNA examiner.
Have you ever testified as an expert in that area in the past?
Yes, I have.
On approximately how many occasions?
This is my 20th time.
And in how many different, all federal jurisdictions, all state, or a mix?
A mix, mostly state and local jurisdictions.
This time, Your Honor, I would submit the witness as an expert in the area of forensic mitochondrial DNA analysis.
No objections, Your Honor.
The witness will be accepted as expert witness in the area tendered. You may proceed.
Thank you. Pardon me. Would you tell us, if you would, what type or types of DNA testing are done by the FBI laboratory?
The FBI laboratory conducts nuclear DNA testing and mitochondrial DNA testing. Nuclear DNA is inherited from both of our parents, from our mother and our father, and nuclear DNA testing then gives us the ability to potentially identify a person as a source of an item of evidence to the exclusion of any other individual. Mitochondrial DNA, on the other hand, is inherited only from our mothers. So we share our mitochondrial DNA type with our mothers, with any siblings we have that share the same mother, and also by chance we share our mitochondrial DNA type with other non-related people. So therefore, mitochondrial DNA testing does not give us the ability to identify a person to the exclusion of anybody else.
How is a mitochondrial DNA examination conducted?
There are several steps that make up a mitochondrial DNA examination. First, the DNA is extracted or isolated from an item of evidence. That DNA is then subjected to a process that we call PCR, which copies that DNA or amplifies it, which then gives us enough DNA to take further along in the following steps of the test. Once we amplify that DNA, we then type it through a process called DNA sequencing. And that DNA sequencing allows us to look at the individual building blocks of a portion of our mitochondrial DNA. That by looking at those building blocks, we can establish or determine a mitochondrial DNA type. And in a forensic examination, we'll typically compare mitochondrial DNA types from different items of evidence, both items of evidence of unknown origin and items of evidence which may be known reference samples from individuals involved in a case. And finally, those mitochondrial DNA types can be subjected to a search in a mitochondrial DNA database.
And what are the possible outcomes of a mitochondrial DNA analysis?
If a mitochondrial DNA type from an item of evidence from a crime scene is different from a mitochondrial DNA type from an individual from a known reference source, that item of evidence can be excluded as originating from the source of that known reference sample. On the other hand, if two mitochondrial DNA types are the same, the source of the reference sample can be included as a source of that item of evidence.
If an individual cannot be excluded and is a possible source, what is the significance of that?
If an individual cannot be excluded as a source of a particular item of evidence, we then calculate an estimate of how common or how rare that mitochondrial type is in the general population. And that estimate is based on the results of our database search.
Why would a particular piece of evidence why would a mitochondrial test be used at a particular piece of evidence as opposed to a nuclear DNA test?
We use mitochondrial DNA testing in or on items of evidence which we would expect would not give us enough nuclear DNA to conduct that kind of test. Typically, that kind of evidence may be a shed hair or skeletal remains. Those items may not have enough nuclear DNA. Therefore, mitochondrial DNA typing gives us some DNA evidence, some DNA type, which then is a powerful tool for excluding a person as a source of an item of evidence.
In July of 2008, was some evidence submitted to you for possible examination in reference to a victim by the name of Caylee Marie Anthony?
Yes, it was.
Did those, pardon me, did those exhibits include a portion of a hair designated by your laboratory as Q12 that was identified by trace evidence examiner?
Yes, the designation of that hair was actually Q12.1.
The portion that you got was 12.1?
That's correct.
All right. Well, you also submitted some purported buccal swabs from someone named Caylee Anthony.
Yes, that item was identified in our laboratory as item K1.
Madam Clerk, could I have items for identification IU and IV? May I approach the witness?
You may.
Let me show you what's been marked for identification as IU and IV and ask if you recognize those as containing the buccal swabs purported to be from Caylee Anthony that you examined.
May I open this package?
You may.
Yes, this item is identified as K1, identified as a buccal swab from Caylee Anthony.
Right. And that was in reference to State's Exhibit IV. If you do the same examination of IU.
Yes, this is another sample of item K1, identified again as a buccal swab from Caylee Anthony.
And is that one of the items that you looked at in your examination?
Yes, it was. I can identify that by the initials of the staff in the laboratory.
Thank you.
Could I get some water, please?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. George, would you mind getting the witness a bottle of water? I think we have one on the table there.
Thank you. Thank you.
This time, Your Honor, State would move into evidence State's Exhibit IV and IU.
What says the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
You received an evidence the state's numbered.
All right. Did you do a mitochondrial DNA test on State's Exhibit, on your Q12.1, which is a portion of the hair purported to be from the trunk liner of a vehicle?
Yes, I did.
And were you able to get a mitochondrial DNA? Would it be called a profile?
A profile or a type, both are appropriate.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Did you also obtain a mitochondrial DNA profile from the exhibits I just showed you?
Yes, I did.
Based upon those two profiles, can you come to any conclusions?
Yes, I can.
What would those conclusions be?
The mitochondrial types from the Q12.1 hair and the K1 buccal sample identified as coming from Caylee Anthony are the same. Therefore, neither Caylee Anthony nor Caylee Anthony can be excluded as the source of that Q12.1 hair. Further, I would not expect to see that mitochondrial DNA type in more than 0.26 of the African American population, nor in more than 1.85% of the Caucasian population, nor in more than 3.9% of the Hispanic population.
Now, when you indicate that that result cannot exclude either Caylee Anthony or Caylee Anthony, your assumption is, your understanding is Caylee Anthony is the daughter of Caylee Anthony?
Yes, that is how it was identified to me.
All right. Would that result, pardon me, also not exclude Caylee Anthony's mother?
That's correct.
Would it also include, and I'll just use that word include because it's easier for me to say, Caylee Anthony's brother from the same mother?
That's correct.
And it would also include Caylee Anthony's maternal grandmother?
It would.
All right. And any maternal uncles?
It would as well.
All right. Now, turning now to December of 2008, did you receive an additional sample for mitochondrial DNA examination?
Yes, I did.
And was this designated by your laboratory as Q59.1?
Yes, it was.
And was this a portion of an exhibit identified as Q59, identified as a hair mass?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you subject portions of that to the same mitochondrial DNA examination as the 12.1 hair?
Yes.
And what were the results?
The mitochondrial DNA type from the Q59.1 hair is identified as coming from the Q59 hair mass is the same as the mitochondrial DNA type of the K1 buccal sample identified as coming from Caylee Anthony. Therefore, Caylee Anthony cannot be excluded as cannot be excluded as the source of the Q59.1 hairs from the hair mass. I would not expect to see that mitochondrial DNA type in more than 0.26% of the African American population, nor in more than 1.85% of the Caucasian population, nor in more than 0.39% of the Hispanic population.
So therefore, based on your examinations, the hair from the trunk, Q12, and the hair mass, Q59, are a mitochondrial match. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And they would match either Caylee Anthony, Caylee Anthony, or anyone in the maternal line?
Yes.
Now, would then you look to other disciplines to further narrow down the possible contributors beyond that?
Yes, mitochondrial DNA alone cannot make those distinctions.
But other disciplines such as trace analysis might be able to further limit the possible contributors?
That is possible, yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
May it please the court. Mr. Ashton. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Ms. Theisen.
Good afternoon.
Now, you testified that you were, or the quality control officer for DNA 2 division?
No, I'm the quality manager of the FBI laboratory.
Okay, so that's the entire laboratory?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And could you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury exactly what that means?
What that means is that I oversee a group called our Quality Assurance Group, and that group is responsible for putting into practice numerous policies and procedures which ensure the quality of our casework. And we also evaluate proficiency tests, conduct audits of our laboratory, ensure that we meet all the standards of our accreditation.
And just to kind of break that down a little bit more, the policies and procedures, they're some often called protocols, are they not?
We do use those terms slightly differently, but in general, yes, that's correct.
Okay, and what you do basically at times is you develop the rules of how each item is processed and how each item of evidence moves forward throughout the laboratories, correct?
In our unit, we do that to a general degree, and then each individual discipline or caseworking unit has further procedures which specify how items of evidence are moved through and processed through their individual units.
And what that does, and part of that, even for your area of mitochondrial DNA, at least when you worked in that division, there would be like a checklist of things that you have to do and check off as you process that item of evidence, correct?
We don't actually use a checklist, but there is a set procedure that is used as cases and evidence are processed.
And as part of quality control, you also have sometimes people checking up on the first examiner's work, correct?
Yes, all of our casework is subjected to, at a minimum, 2 levels of review.
And what's done in addition to that is each person who works in your laboratory also has proficiency tests to make sure their work is up to par, correct?
Each person who handles and processes evidence in a particular forensic science discipline is indeed subject to proficiency tests, yes.
Okay. And the reason that you have all of these steps in place is to prevent contamination, correct?
Objection exceeds the scope of direct.
I believe
Sustain.
this witness has testified about that area, Judge.
Sustain.
Yes, sir. Now, the laboratory, and part of your job as the quality control officer would be to ensure, as you mentioned, that everything is in compliance with the accreditation of the laboratory, correct?
Objection exceeds the scope of direct, which was.
This is something the witness has testified both under direct, Judge, and cross.
Your Honor.
Sustain.
Now, your job as the quality control officer, of course, is to ensure that the integrity of the evidence is handled in its most efficient manner, is it not?
Objection exceeds the scope of direct.
Sustain.
Ma'am, as you testified, the entire maternal line in mitochondrial DNA cannot be excluded as to either piece of evidence that you handled, correct?
In general, that is true, yes.
Okay. And the item of evidence, specifically the Q12.1 item, that there is no indication as to, or you were not given any information as to its history, correct?
That is incorrect. I was presented with information as an examiner in a caseworking unit. I do get the communications that come into our laboratory about the case in general and have those to review during when I'm conducting my casework.
So you were informed then that Lee Anthony once owned the Pontiac Sunfire, correct?
I did.
Hearsay.
I think this witness has testified that she was given information to help base her conclusions, Judge.
I don't believe that she indicated that that was the basis of any conclusions she drew.
Sustain.
Do you use this information to assist you in carrying out your work?
No, I do not.
Okay, so it's just gratuitous information that you read because you like to read up on those topics, or do you find that useful in your work?
I wouldn't characterize it that way. All of our case files are required to have in them by our policies what we call our incoming letters of communication, the letters that come in with the evidence that describe the case. It is a requirement, and we do read those. It's not used as a basis for my conclusions.
But it is still used throughout the course of your work, is it not?
I guess
because you read a file before you actually go on and do the work, do you not?
I certainly do read their letters, yes.
Okay. So in those inclusions, as you read your file, Did it include the fact that Lee Anthony once owned the Pontiac Sunfire before Casey Anthony did?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustain.
Were you given any further information about the potential people who could not be excluded, such as Cindy Anthony and her maternal line?
Objection to hearsay because the question is vague.
I don't think the question's vague, Judge.
The question can be answered simply by yes or no. Objection overruled.
Could you please restate the question?
Sure, I understand. Were you given any other information as to the other people who could not be excluded on the maternal line, such as Cindy Anthony and other relatives?
I'm not sure what you mean by information. It may have been in the communications, the names of the parents of Casey Anthony.
Okay. And other relatives as well who couldn't be excluded?
Would be, excuse me, excluded?
That could not be excluded, excuse me.
I don't recall specifically the mention of a Lee Anthony in the particular communications that I have.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Any redirect?
No, sir.
May the witness be excused.
As far as the state's concerned, yes.
Thank you, ma'am. You may be excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm Alina Burroughs, Alina Burroughs.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Please tell the court and the members of the jury your occupation.
I am a crime scene investigator with the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked for Orange County?
I've been with Orange County since November 18th of 2003, which is approximately 7.5 years.
Okay. Were you working for the Orange County Sheriff's Office as a crime scene investigator back in December of 2008?
Yes, I was.
Right. Did you assist other crime scene investigators in the collection of evidence at the recovery site of Caylee Marie Anthony's remains in December of 2008?
Yes, I did.
Did you also assist other crime scene investigators during the execution of a search warrant on the Anthony home on Hope Spring Drive on December 20th of 2008?
Yes, I did.
Okay. If I may show the witness what has been marked as BT for identification.
You may.
Thank you. Can you see that on your monitor, ma'am?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Are you familiar with the locations? Yes. I have it on unpublished.
Is it still on? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Are you familiar with the locations shown in the photo?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Does this photograph fairly and accurately depict the distance between the two locations, that being the Anthony residence on Hope Spring Drive and the scene where Caylee Anthony's remains were recovered on Suburban Drive?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce BT for identification into evidence.
No
Says
objections.
the defense.
No objections, Your Honor.
It will be received in evidence as states numbered.
Okay, may I appropriately publish this to the jury at this point?
You may.
All right. Ms. Burroughs, we have a notation on there as to the location of the Anthony home. Can you circle the area? The screen is a telestrator. Can you circle the area where the remains were located?
Yes, the approximate area was right there.
May I unpublish?
You may.
Now, you had indicated that you also assisted during the execution of a search warrant on December 20th of 2008. what role did you play during that process?
During this process, I facilitated the location, collection, and documentation of evidence pursuant to a search warrant at the Anthony residence.
Right. If I may, did that include your seeing items before their collection?
Visually seeing the items before I handled them.
Yes.
In some cases, I might see them in their present location, or in some cases after they had been discovered, they had been brought to me.
All right. Are you familiar with whether or not there were heart stickers located in the bedroom of Caylee Anthony during the execution of that search warrant on December 20th of 2008?
Yes, there were.
Okay. If I may show the witness QV for identification.
You may.
Do you see QV?
Yes, I do.
Is QV a fair and accurate photograph of an item that was located in Caylee Anthony's bedroom?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, I would seek to introduce QV for identification into evidence.
What says the defense? You may.
We do have an objection.
You may approach along with the court reporter. You may proceed.
Thank you. Investigator Burroughs, where was this item located?
This particular item was located inside a yellow type of box, inside a dresser along the north wall of Caylee Anthony's bedroom, just east of the head of the bed.
Okay. The box where that was located, did it contain other items?
Yes, it did.
Did the other items include an envelope?
Yes.
Okay. When the item was photographed, was the envelope just part of the background of the location where the sticker or the part of the sticker was found?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Is the sticker affixed to the envelope in any fashion?
No, it is not.
Okay. Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce QV for identification into evidence.
Just renew our previous motions and objections, Judge.
Noting the defense's previous objections, it would be admitted into evidence over defense objections as states exhibit numbered.
Permission to publish this item to the jury, Your Honor.
You may publish.
And permission to unpublish.
You may.
May I have QW for identification, please? Do you see that item in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is this a close-up of the same item that was displayed in 306 in evidence?
Yes, it is.
Does that also accurately depict the condition of the item when it was discovered during the search warrant?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce QW for identification into evidence.
Same motions and objections.
Noting previous objections, objection would be overruled. It will be received in evidence as states numbered.
If I may approach the witness with what has been marked as QN for identification.
You may.
You would take a look at the packaging on that item and tell me if you recognize it as something that you've had contact with in the past.
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize it to be?
This is the same red and white heart-shaped sticker backing that was shown in the previous pictures.
Was that collected and packaged by you and sealed in that envelope?
Yes, it was.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce QN for identification into evidence.
What says the defense?
Same motions and objections, Judge.
Noted in previous stated objections, objections will be overruled. They will be received in evidence as states numbered.
If I may have QX for identification. Do you see QX?
Yes, I do.
Right. Are there other stickers in that photograph that were collected and seized by you?
Yes, there are.
Where were those stickers located?
This is a sheet of heart-shaped stickers that appeared to have been cut in half. It was located inside of a black binder in that same cabinet as the previous sticker, which was located along the north wall in Caylee Anthony's bedroom.
Does this photograph fairly and accurately depict those stickers that were located in Ms. Anthony's bedroom?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce QX for identification into evidence.
What says the defense?
Same motions and objections.
Noting the defense's previous stated objections, objections will be overruled. It will be received in evidence as states numbered.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
You may publish.
Right. Can you indicate by circling the item that you were speaking of? If I may approach the witness with what's been marked as QP for identification.
You may.
If you would take a look at the packaging associated with that item and tell me if it's something that you believe you've had contact with in the past.
Yes, it is.
What is it?
This is the sheet of heart-shaped stickers cut in half that was previously shown in photographs.
Were those collected by you, placed in that envelope, and sealed?
Yes, they were.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce QP for identification into evidence.
What says the defense?
Same motions and objections, Judge.
Noted in previous motions and previous objections, they will be received in evidence over defense objections and be given what number, Madam Clerk?
If I may have QY for identification. Can you see QY?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize that as an item collected from the bedroom of Caylee Marie Anthony?
Yes, I do.
Does that photograph fairly and accurately depict the item collected?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce QY for identification into evidence.
What says the defense?
Same motions and objections, Judge.
Noted same motions and objections. Objection would be overruled. Be received in evidence as states numbered.
Permission to publish.
You may publish.
And if I may approach the witness with QO for identification.
You may.
If you would take a look at the packaging associated with that item and tell me if you believe that is something that you've had contact with in the past.
Yes, it is.
What is the item in QO for identification?
This is a sheet of metallic red heart-shaped stickers with 3 stickers remaining on the sheet.
Right. if you look at QY, which has been introduced as 311 in evidence that is still on your screen, can you circle the item that is contained in QO? Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce QO for identification into evidence as the state's next numbered exhibit.
What says the defense?
Same motions and objections.
Noted in previous motions, noted in objections, objections in motion. Objection will be overruled. It will be received in evidence as states numbered.
Thank you, Ms. Burroughs. Your Honor, I have no other questions of the witness.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Ms. Burroughs.
Afternoon.
The photograph on, can I see QV, please? Then I guess the next one. Sorry. That's it. 307. Your Honor, may I publish number 307 to both the witness and the jury?
You may.
Thank you. Can you see?
Just a second.
I'm sorry. Can you see it, Ms. Burroughs, the photo?
Yes, I can.
Can the ladies and gentlemen of the jury see it? Oh, now. Okay. Can you see the stamp on the right-hand corner of that item?
The postage stamp?
Yes, the postage stamp.
Yes,
Do you see 37 cents?
I do.
Okay. Do you know how long ago it's been since we've had 37-cent stamps?
I couldn't recall.
Okay. So obviously this is a very old letter, is it not?
The date of the letter with a 37-cent stamp, but I couldn't say when that was actually mailed.
Right. I understand. There were items in this box that were significantly old.
I wouldn't feel comfortable making that statement.
Did you see scrap items, like baby shower items?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you see other items for a scrapbook?
In that box or in the cabinet?
In the box.
No, I believe mostly baby shower items.
Okay. Can I have QY? May I publish item number 311 to both the jury and the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Can you see that, Ms. Burroughs?
Yes, I can.
Can the ladies and gentlemen of the jury see it as well? Okay. Now, there are also star stickers here.
Yes, there are.
There are a whole bunch of different stickers.
I see star stickers and the heart
You
stickers.
see Mickey Mouse stickers.
I don't recall if those are stickers or if they're just on a paper.
Okay. Do you see Pluto and other Disney characters, Minnie
Yes.
Mouse?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you see other scrapbook items in the room?
In
Or
the
did
room?
you see? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This was a room that had a lot of children items in there, correct?
Would you define children items?
Scrapbooks for kids, things like that.
I don't recall seeing scrapbooks for children.
Did you see artwork of a child?
I don't recall.
Okay. You don't recall on the walls seeing different pieces of artwork that might have been done by a small child?
No, I don't. I recall seeing pictures, but no artwork.
Did you also search other areas of the home for stickers?
Yes.
Okay. And did you find any stickers in Caylee's room?
I don't recall if they were stickers, but there was a scrapbook page.
Okay. And did you take photographs of those of that scrapbook?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And they're not listed here or introduced into evidence?
No.
Okay. And what about in Cindy and George Anthony's room? Did you find anything in there? Or did you search there, I should ask first?
Yes.
Okay. And did you find any sticker type items in that room?
No stickers were recovered from the master bedroom, no.
Even ones that were actually placed on items? Or did you not consider those?
I honestly don't know what you're referring to.
I'm asking, did you find anything stuck to a piece of paper that would be considered a sticker in Cindy and George Anthony's?
No.
Okay. Now, I'd like to show you Defense Exhibit W, which is a photograph of an item introduced into evidence in this case. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Show it to counsel.
May I
May I approach?
Yes. Since it's not introduced yet, I just want to ask you, do you understand that item to be something recovered off of Suburban Drive?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay, and that is what you believe to be a sticker, correct?
I never held this object. I've seen photos of this object, so I wouldn't be comfortable determining whether or not it had an adhesive side.
Okay. Did you find anything remotely, well, did you find that item at the Anthony home?
This exact item?
Correct.
Because I have never actually held this item and I've only seen it in pictures, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
Okay. From what you see there, do you recognize what you see there from any item that you saw in the Anthony home?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. She's already indicated she's not comfortable giving her opinion about this.
She can answer the last question.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Did you find that item at the Anthony home?
Not to my knowledge, without actually holding the item.
Okay. We'll follow up with that later, but from what you can see, you didn't find that item at the house, right?
Again, I'm really not comfortable because I don't have measurements. I haven't held this item. I wouldn't be able to say in what size and if it was comparable to other items found in the house.
Okay. We understand. You have limited knowledge. You've just seen it in photographs.
Yes.
But from the items you've seen in photographs, you never saw that item at the Anthony home, correct?
Sustain.
Okay. How far away from an elementary school was Suburban Drive?
There was one in the vicinity.
Okay. How far would you say the vicinity?
I don't like to make estimates.
Just a very rough estimate. Was it next door, across the street?
There was
Down the
one
block?
not directly across the street, but it was on the opposite side of the street, some distance away.
Okay. Closer, about 100 yards? away?
Like I said, I don't feel comfortable making estimates on measurements.
Okay. Can we have that picture up? Okay. Would it be fair to say that there is an elementary school about,
What is the exhibit?
I'm sorry, Judge, BT 305?
You want it published to the jury?
Yes, sir. Can you see that, Ms. Burroughs?
Yes.
I apologize. Can everyone see that? Okay. Would it be fair to say that approximately 30 yards from here is an elementary school?
Again, I'm not going to make an estimate as to distance, but there is an elementary school in the vicinity and it is not present in that picture.
Okay. But my question is it fair to say that it's about 30 yards from there? Or if you want to give it more, you can say 50, 100, however.
Because I've never been to that elementary school nor walked the distance from the crime scene, I'm not going to make an estimate of distance. I will say that it was in the vicinity.
Okay, so you can't help us any more than that.
Objection, Your Honor. This has been asked and answered 4 times.
Right here, ma'am, if you go further, that's a dead end, isn't it?
If you continue all the way down, that road does dead end.
Okay, and there is nothing, no homes or anything else but an elementary school there, correct?
I did not travel to the dead end of the road to be able to say there weren't residences.
Okay. You were involved at the scene at Suburban Drive?
Yes,
Okay, and you were there for how many days?
roughly 9.
9 days. And you're aware that right here, it was cut off from the public, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're also aware that the only traffic that was allowed through were school buses, were you not?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And that is because no other cars other than police cars were allowed through there, correct?
I believe families that were picking up children from that school were allowed down that road as well.
Okay. And no homes, no people, there was nothing else but a school there, right?
Again, I didn't travel that road to be able to answer that question.
Sustain.
Could you see anything other than a school there? A home, a barn, a shack, anything?
Objection asked and answered.
I don't believe that. Is there anything to give you any indication other than there was a school there, madam?
No.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. You may be excused.
Your Honor, at this point, I would introduce KV for identification of evidence, an item previously identified by Robin Maynard.
What says the defense?
I would object. The proper foundation, and we wait till this witness leaves the stand before we introduce that, so I couldn't ask her about it.
You have some questions you want to ask her about it?
That's the item, of the photograph?
Stop the witness
Yes.
before she leaves the floor. Well, he said he wanted to ask her a question, so just in case.
Objections. Someone is the witness about
Asked who?
the last witness about the evidence.
Go ahead. Return the last witness to the stand. Ms. Burroughs, you're still in know from Mr. Baez. You may proceed, sir.
My apologies, Ms. Burroughs. We happen to have the item that you looked at the photograph of. So that way I wanted you to see it. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may. What is the item's number?
Yes, the item is states identification KV, which would be?
KB, it's not in yet. That's what she had off.
Oh,
She had offered it, and there was an objection that you wanted to question the witness, so.
I'm withdrawing our objection so that I can ask her about the item.
Okay, and since there's no objection, that item will be received into evidence as states numbered.
313.
Burroughs, can you cut that open? I'll see if I can get you some of those.
Thank you.
Have you had an opportunity to look at the item?
Yes, I have.
And now you have it. It's not in a photograph, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Did you find that item at the Anthony home?
I did not find this exact item.
Okay. Did you find that appears to be thick, does it not?
Yes,
Not a flat sticker?
correct.
Something that would be called, I guess, a bevel?
Yes, it's a raised surface.
Raised surface, yes. You didn't find anything like that at the Anthony home, did you?
No.
Okay. No further questions.
Any questions about the item? May Ms. Burroughs be excused? Mr. Baez?
So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burroughs. You may be excused, ma'am.
Thank you.